Imagine standing on a cold dock in Genoa, Italy. The year is 1948. A man in a worn suit clutches false papers bearing a new name. Behind him lies a continent in ruins. Ahead, a ship bound for Buenos Aires. He is not alone. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, have made the same journey. They are not refugees seeking safety from war. They are war criminals fleeing justice. This is the story of the ratlines. The fall of Nazi Germany in 1945 marked the end of the deadliest conflict in human history. Over 60 million people died. Entire cities turned to ash. A regime responsible for the systematic murder of 11 million people, including 6 million Jews, collapsed. The world demanded accountability. The Nuremberg trials began. Justice, it seemed, would prevail. But something else was happening beneath the surface. A vast network was forming. Secret routes, false identities. Safe houses stretching from Germany through Austria, into Italy, and across the Atlantic to South America. These were the ratlines. Escape routes for those who orchestrated genocide. And at the end of many of these routes lay one destination above all others: Argentina. The question is simple. Why Argentina? The answer reveals a convergence of ideology, geography, corruption, and Cold War politics that turned a nation into a sanctuary for the architects of atrocity. The ratlines did not appear by accident. They were constructed with precision. 3 primary networks facilitated the mass exodus of Nazi war criminals from Europe. The first network operated through the Catholic Church. Vatican officials, including Bishop Alois Hudel and Croatian priest Krunoslav Draganovic, established routes through Rome. They provided false papers, temporary housing, and travel documents. Their motivation remains debated. Some historians argue they sought to prevent the spread of communism by protecting anti-Soviet forces. Others suggest complicity ran deeper, rooted in wartime sympathies. The second network involved American and British intelligence services. Operation Paperclip brought Nazi scientists to the United States, but other operations were darker. The OSI, predecessor to the CIA, recruited former SS officers for intelligence work against the Soviet Union. Some of these officers, once their usefulness expired, were quietly redirected to South America with new identities. The third network was the most organized. Former SS officers themselves created sophisticated escape routes. Men like Otto Skorzeny and Hans-Ulrich Rudel coordinated logistics, finances, and safe houses. They moved fugitives like cargo through checkpoints and borders, always one step ahead of Allied authorities. These 3 networks did not work in isolation. They intersected, collaborated, and shared resources. The result was a machine capable of moving thousands across continents with remarkable efficiency. Argentina in the 1940s was not like Europe. It had not been bombed. Its cities stood intact. Its economy, though troubled, remained functional. But more importantly, Argentina possessed something the fleeing officers desperately needed: a government willing to look the other way. Juan Perón rose to power in 1946. His presidency coincided precisely with the peak years of Nazi flight. This was not coincidence. Perón harbored sympathies for the Axis powers. During the war, Argentina remained neutral until the final weeks, only declaring war on Germany in March 1945 when defeat was inevitable. This late entry was strategic, ensuring Argentina avoided consequences while maintaining trade relationships with both sides. Perón's government actively recruited European immigrants. On the surface, this was economic policy. Argentina needed skilled workers to modernize. But beneath official policy lay unofficial practice. The Argentine embassy in Rome issued thousands of landing permits to individuals whose pasts were never scrutinized. Immigration officials received instructions to expedite processing for certain European applicants. Questions about wartime activities were not asked. The infrastructure was already in place. Argentina had a large German immigrant community dating back to the 19th century. German language schools operated openly. German social clubs thrived. A fugitive arriving in Buenos Aires could disappear into established communities where German remained the primary language. Assimilation was unnecessary. Anonymity was guaranteed. Argentina offered strategic advantages beyond ideology. Its geography created natural barriers to investigation and extradition. The country spans nearly 3,700 kilometers from north to south. Much of Patagonia, the southern region, remained sparsely populated. Towns existed hundreds of kilometers apart. Roads were poor. Communication networks limited. A man seeking to vanish could purchase land in remote areas where authorities rarely ventured. Some Nazi fugitives established ranches in regions so isolated that visits from government officials occurred once a year, if at all. The Andes Mountains formed a natural western border with Chile. Should pressure mount, crossing into Chile required only a mountain pass and determination. From Chile, further escape to Paraguay or Bolivia remained possible. South America offered layered security through sheer distance and terrain. Buenos Aires itself provided urban anonymity. A city of millions, it absorbed newcomers effortlessly. European architecture and culture meant German immigrants blended seamlessly into the cosmopolitan atmosphere. A former SS officer could walk down Avenida Corrientes without drawing attention. He could conduct business, attend church, send his children to German schools, all while living under a false name. Nazi flight to Argentina was not merely ideological or geographical. It was financial. The Nazi regime looted Europe. Gold, art, currency, and valuables flowed to Berlin throughout the war. As defeat approached, much of this wealth was hidden or transferred. Swiss bank accounts held fortunes. Art collections were buried. Gold bars were melted and recast. And significant portions were smuggled out of Europe entirely. Argentina offered banking secrecy and minimal financial oversight. Fugitives arriving with capital could establish businesses, purchase property, and invest without scrutiny. Some estimates suggest hundreds of millions of dollars in looted Nazi wealth entered Argentina between 1945 and 1955. This capital was not idle. It financed businesses, purchased influence, and ensured comfortable lives for those who possessed it. Former officers did not arrive as penniless refugees. Many came with resources carefully extracted and preserved. They opened import-export businesses. They invested in real estate. They established pharmaceutical companies. The economic integration of Nazi fugitives into Argentine society was not accidental. It was planned, financed, and protected. While thousands of Nazi officers and collaborators found safety in Argentina, the victims of their crimes received no such sanctuary. Adolf Eichmann, architect of the final solution, lived in Buenos Aires under the name Ricardo Clement. He worked in a Mercedes-Benz factory. He raised his family in a modest neighborhood. For 15 years, he lived free while the families of the 6 million he helped murder searched for justice. Joseph Mengele, the angel of death of Auschwitz, moved between Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil for decades. A doctor who conducted grotesque medical experiments on prisoners, including children, lived comfortably under various aliases. He swam in the ocean. He attended social gatherings. He died of natural causes in 1979, never facing trial. Erich Priebke, responsible for the massacre of 335 Italian civilians at the Ardeatine Caves, lived openly in Bariloche. He ran a delicatessen. He gave interviews. He taught German to local children. For 50 years, he enjoyed the life denied to those he murdered. These were not isolated cases. Hundreds of war criminals found refuge. Gestapo officers, SS commanders, concentration camp guards. Each had names. Each had histories written in blood. and each lived freely while their victims' families demanded answers that never came. Not everyone escaped justice. The hunt continued. Israeli intelligence agencies tracked fugitives across continents. The most famous operation occurred in 1960 when Mossad agents captured Adolf Eichmann in a Buenos Aires suburb. They drugged him, smuggled him onto an El Al flight, and brought him to Israel to stand trial. His capture shocked Argentina and the world. It proved that distance provided no absolute protection. Eichmann's trial in Jerusalem captivated global attention. Survivors testified. Evidence was presented. In 1962, he was hanged, the only execution ever carried out by the State of Israel. His remains were cremated and scattered at sea beyond Israeli territorial waters. Even in death, he would not rest in the land his victims never reached. But Eichmann's capture was an exception. Most fugitives were never found. Others died before they could be brought to trial. Some lived into old age, protected by bureaucratic obstacles and fading memories. The pursuit of justice became a race against time, and time often won. The ratlines existed within a specific historical moment. The Cold War provided cover. As tensions between the United States and Soviet Union intensified, the focus of Western intelligence shifted. Former Nazis became potential assets rather than criminals. Men who had fought the Soviets on the Eastern Front possessed valuable intelligence. Their anti-communist credentials outweighed their war crimes in the calculus of Cold War strategy. Argentina, despite Perrin's populist rhetoric, aligned itself with the West. This alignment provided diplomatic protection. Extradition requests were denied or delayed. Legal processes stalled. Evidence was lost or destroyed. The Cold War created a political environment where yesterday's enemies became today's convenient allies. This pragmatic approach to justice had consequences. It communicated a message that crimes, no matter how heinous, could be forgiven if political circumstances changed. It taught that accountability was negotiable. It suggested that power and ideology mattered more than morality and law. The Nazi presence in Argentina left scars that persist. Families who lost loved ones in the Holocaust received delayed, incomplete, or no justice. The knowledge that perpetrators lived comfortable lives while survivors struggled to rebuild created lasting anguish. The psychological impact of this disparity cannot be quantified, but it shaped an entire generation's relationship with justice and memory. Argentine society itself faced difficult questions. How did a nation become a haven for war criminals? What did it mean that neighbors, business partners, even friends might have hidden pasts? The country's reluctance to fully confront this history created tensions that surfaced periodically. Only decades later did Argentina begin serious investigations into the ratlines and the role official channels played in facilitating them. The Catholic Church faced scrutiny for its role in providing false documents and safe passage. Vatican archives remain partially closed, preventing complete historical accounting. The full extent of church involvement may never be known, but evidence suggests complicity extended beyond individual priests to institutional policy. Today, the hunt continues, though few fugitives remain alive. Organizations like the Simon Wiesenthal Center maintain lists of suspected war criminals. Prosecutors in Germany, Israel, and elsewhere pursue aging suspects. But time has nearly closed this chapter. The last major trial occurred in 2011 when a German court convicted John Demjanjuk of assisting in the murder of over 28,000 people at Sobibor. He died during appeal. Trials of individuals in their 90s raise questions about the meaning of justice delayed. Yet the pursuit continues because accountability matters, regardless of how much time has passed. The ratlines represent a profound failure of post-war justice. They demonstrate how networks of power, ideology, and corruption can undermine accountability. They show how distance and political expediency can shield even the worst criminals. And they remind us that justice deferred is justice denied. Why did so many German officers flee to Argentina after World War II? They fled because they could, because networks existed to help them, because a government welcomed them, because geography protected them, because wealth smoothed their path, because the Cold War provided cover, because the world, exhausted by war, looked away. But perhaps the more important question is this: what does it say about justice that they succeeded? And in our own time, as we face new atrocities and new claims of accountability, have we learned anything from the ratlines? Or are we simply building new escape routes under different names?